Hello, and I think that is us all live now. So we're back doing another Crimewatch rewatch. Haven't done one in a while, and I do apologise for that. Now, some of you may have seen last night I was on the 8 out of 10 Cats channel doing my first ever live debate. I will be honest. I think I could have done a lot better. I just let my nerves get to me. I watched it back. I don't think I was as terrible as I first thought, but I could have done better. But I would just treat it as a learning experience and move on from there. But if you do want to check it out, yeah, just go to the channel. 8 out of 10 Cats, and that's cat spelt with a Z. Okay. Now, tonight, as I say, we are back doing the Crimewatch rewatch. So this episode is from March 1985. Now, as ever, do remember that these are real cases, real crimes with real victims. So, I may make some sarky remarks, but I will try and bear that all in mind. Usually, I do these streams on OBS, but my OBS isn't playing ball today, so I've had to go back to StreamYard. StreamYard, it doesn't have the same functionality as OBS, but it's what I say. It's a lot more plug in and play. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go into it. It's that classic Crimewatch theme we all know and love.
Hello and welcome. Now, the detectives and the researchers behind me are already waiting for your calls, as are police throughout the country. The crimes we're about to show you are among the most difficult there are to solve. But remember, the chances are really quite high that you can help. As a direct result of last month's Crimewatch, several people are now in custody awaiting trial.
Remember the burglary in Epping in Essex? 3 men broke into this house and held the Mitchell family at gunpoint for an hour and a half. They escaped with property worth £30,000.
They were
Police
shot
and the
in
Mitchells
by another
help us
criminal.
make a vivid reconstruction in the hope that anyone who knew the culprits would ring in. Afterwards, 200 people phoned in with information, and as a direct result, 2 brothers and a 3rd man, all from South East London, have been remanded in custody on a joint charge of aggravated burglary. In addition, one of them has been charged with wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm to Mr. Mitchell.
We also showed a gold snatch from a jeweller's shop in Chippenham in Wiltshire. The shop has a security camera which showed 3 men posing as customers, distracting the assistant and escaping with £12,000 worth of gold chains. Nearly 300 viewers phoned in to help. As a direct result, 3 men, all from northwest London, have been arrested and charged with burglary.
Okay, well, I was able to find out at least one of them, but now I know all the others were caught as well.
A sticky problem for thieves in the West Country. They're probably trying to get rid of 31,000 cans of stolen Silver Crin hairspray, and all of them fairly new to the market. A trailer loaded with the hairspray
this one
was
sold
stolen
as well.
from a
Another
lay-by near
Crimewatch
Western
success
Supermare
story.
on Wednesday, the 2nd of January.
Our viewer knew that trailer, it was sitting in a farmyard just up the road. Local police were there in minutes, and on inquiries heard that 4 men were coming back next morning to pick up the trailer and the 30,000 cans of hairspray, which they did. 4 men have now been charged with theft, and a 5th man has been charged with disposing of stolen property.
I don't know how you
And
get rid of
there's been a
31,000
dramatic new lead on a case that we featured last August, the murder of a 9-year-old. Christopher Laverack was abducted from the home of his half-sister in Hull in March last year. His body was found 10 miles away by this man who was walking
So
his
this
dog
one did
along
get solved,
Beverly
but
Bay.
not until 2012. It was his uncle Melvin Reed,
Well, that dramatic new lead
who
concerns
was
that tread-air carpet
eventually
bag that Christopher's body was
convicted of it,
found in,
even
like
though
this
he'd
one,
actually
and also
died
tiny
4
microscopic
years
carpet fibres you can
previously.
find in it. I don't know whether you can see those on camera. Tiny, weeny microscopic fibres. Superintendent Baker, what exactly have you managed to find?
These fibres were in the bag and on Christopher's body. They've been examined by experts from the Forensic Science Laboratory at Wetherby. As a result of that, they've told us that the fibres are from carpets similar to the ones we've got in the studio. Now, the inquiries have taken us throughout the United Kingdom and onto the continent, but they tell us that the fibres are from carpets like the ones we've got here. This first one
Yeah,
is
so
100% nylon carpet, also known as polyamide.
from what I
It's a living
looked
room quality. It's got a
when we
sculpture
did look at this
behind,
one
shadow power
previously, it
effect,
wasn't the
and it's
carpet
predominantly
that
green and
they
white in colour.
used
The other
to
carpet
convict his
is
uncle. It was like
a bedroom
plant and pollen
quality.
material
It's 100%
that
polypropylene, also known as
that they had
Marathon.
found.
Now, it's mid-brown in colour, and it's got a tufted pile.
Now, you're looking for somebody with a combination of these carpets. Do you think somebody who has carpets like these might be involved in the killing?
Well, how the killer came into possession of the bag, I don't know, and I don't intend to speculate on that. But what I do know is that the killer put Christopher into the bag, and the forensic evidence has told us that the bag is connected with a premises or a house with carpets like this. So it's vital that we find where that bag has come from.
So somebody can lead you to this bag if they can recognise these carpets.
I'm hopeful so, and today we've delivered about 150,000 information sheets to houses in the whole area, and we're hoping that people will look at the carpets tonight on the television and also use those information sheets and see if they can help us to find out where that bag has come from.
Superintendent Baker, thank you
I
very much.
don't know. I suspect it was a common
Well, maybe
carpet
you can find
pattern.
little Christopher's killer. If you think you can help, please call us. Here's the number: 01811 8055, 01811 8055. You can, of course, talk to a detective or a BBC researcher if you prefer. Or you can call the police in Humberside direct. They're in Hull 796271. That's 0482 for Hull 796271. Now the first of tonight's reconstructions. It's the
Before Nick starts talking, I'm going to say this particular case has actually come up on here before. When it was on previously, it was just as a one of Dave and Helen's mini appeals, but now it's getting the full-blown treatment that it probably deserved the first time. All right, let's go.
most controversial murder hunt in Britain. It's a case that's repeatedly made headlines and about which questions have been raised in Parliament. The murder of Hilda Murrell. Miss Murrell was 79. She lived in Shropshire and she was a rose grower of international fame. There have been suggestions that MI5 was involved in her murder. She was under surveillance because she was an active opponent of nuclear power, or because during the Falklands War her nephew had been a naval intelligence officer at the time the battleship General Belgrano was sunk. Well, the police say the evidence points in quite another way. They're increasingly convinced the murder was a common burglary that went wrong. What you're about to see is based on the detectives' files and therefore on the police interpretation of events. You're going to see evidence that's never been shown before. It's almost exactly 12 months since the crime. The date, remember, Wednesday, the 21st of March.
Just before noon that day, friends remember seeing Hilda Murrell in the Abbey Foregate area of Shrewsbury. She'd been shopping at Safeways
I
and
will
drawn
tell
some
more
money from a
about her
nearby
story
bank
later.
when she was seen getting into her white Renault car. She'd only half a mile to go to the detached house in Sutton Road, where she lived alone. That lunchtime, however, someone may have got there before her.
Seems a good bet.
From what was later found at the scene of the crime, police know she put some of her shopping away.
Well, that's good to know. No, at least the milk didn't go off.
They also know that at some stage she must have gone upstairs.
Well, it is her house. There's a good chance she might go upstairs in her own house.
Hilda Murrell was apparently attacked inside the house and tied up while the intruder carried out a search. From the kitchen, one of her knives was probably taken, and though the burglar searched her handbag, he ignored a check card and checkbook, concentrating on the cash she'd taken from the bank that morning.
Okay. So it doesn't seem like a
The living
standard
room
robbery.
curtains were drawn, and as her attacker continued his search, he helped himself to a drink.
Oh, that's
Even at
chic
this
of it.
stage in the escalating violence, her attacker may not have wanted to kill her.
Is that Harp
In one of
Lager?
the strangest twists to the story, he forced her out of the house and into her own car.
Time for a sharp exit.
From her house in Sutton Road, the first landmark the car passed was a roundabout known locally as Column Island. It seemed to be heading straight for the centre of town. It was then seen close to the Monkmoor Road traffic lights. Hilda Murrell was slumped in the passenger seat, and the car took a right turn away from the town centre. A couple of minutes later, at the far end of Monkmoor Road, it passed Shrewsbury Police Station, and half a mile further on, it was heading out into the Shropshire countryside.
Oh, that's
It
brazen,
crossed
isn't it? Going
Heathgate's
right
roundabout
past
and took the
the
final
old bill.
exit, travelling east. A couple driving towards town remember a white car swerving past them as it sped out into the countryside.
I am amazed that people remember
The car was
things like
following a
that.
back route to Newport until it turned off into a country road called Huntington Lane.
I wouldn't remember something like that, especially not the day on
It was
which that
about this
happened.
point along that narrow country lane that police believe Hilda Murrell, already bruised and battered, began to come round.
Sit still. Sit still. You'll get some of that. Some of that.
Some of that.
Get off.
We know from the tyre tracks that it was here that the car skidded off the road, and it's likely that Hilda Murrell was then forced to get out.
Get out.
I do love these reconstructions.
Her attacker then began a frantic attempt to get the car moving again, shoving a book under the front wheel. It could have been at this point that she took the car's ignition keys. They were later found in her pocket. And despite her age and appalling injuries, Hilda Murrell may have made one last attempt to get away.
Good for her.
Hey! Hey! Come here!
Whatever happened, police believe that her attacker bundled Hilda Murrell off that country lane and into a field.
A field? Who would have guessed?
Evidence found there seems to suggest she was stabbed and beaten as she was forced across the field and dragged towards a small coppice, where she would die some hours later.
Three days later, Hilda Murrell's body was discovered a quarter of a mile away from her abandoned car.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, before Nick speaks to the inspector, yeah, I'm just going to say, yeah, Hilda Murrell was a very famous case at the time. So actually I will just let the inspector go through their little thing before I tell you all about the whole story of Hilda Murrell and her murder. So yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to Nick. Back to you, Nick.
Now, in that reconstruction, we were as accurate as we could be. We used Hilda Murrell's own car and, where possible, her own possessions. Her home, though, in Sutton Road has been sold and it's been changed inside since. So we used instead a neighbour's house. We do, though, have a
Oh,
picture
that's
of the real
disappointing.
house taken when the crime was first discovered. The detective leading the inquiry, Detective Chief Superintendent David Cole, is going to take us through the scene of crime video taken by the police inside Hilda Murrell's home on the weekend that her body was found. Now, first of all, you have pictures of the breakfast room.
Yes, the first shots we're going to see are of the breakfast room, and these quite clearly indicate a search of
I
drawers
like the
and
idea of
cupboards.
a breakfast room.
And we move on now to the
A
table
room
in the breakfast
specifically
room,
for
showing
eating
that
breakfast.
her handbag and her purse had been searched, and we know that a quantity of money was taken out of the purse.
Now, no sign there, particularly of documents being rifled.
No, there were various documents within the house to do with her research into the Sizewell B project, and it would appear that none of them were disturbed.
It was, though, said that the telephone had
Sizewell
been
B was a
tampered with,
nuclear
that the
power
phone
site.
had been carefully disconnected.
Yes, it was. There's been a lot of speculation about the telephone, and the next shot, I think, shows quite clearly the telephone as we found it and indicates that it had been ripped out. The wires had been ripped out of the junction box and had been ripped away from the wall. All the wires had been ripped out of the junction box, as you can plainly see in that shot.
Had anybody made any sophisticated attempt to bug the phone, as far as you could tell, to
None
tamper with it?
None whatsoever, and that has been confirmed by GPO engineers.
Oh,
Right.
that ends.
Now, we
That
know
ends
that
one
she went
conspiracy.
upstairs and that he went upstairs. What
Yes.
did you find when you went to the top of the house?
Well, there was a lot of activity upstairs, quite obviously. The next police video shot shows you the stairway, going up the stairway, and at the top there is a broken balustrade, and we believe that Miss Murrell may have been tied to that balustrade while the intruder was searching other parts of the house.
There's the missing
Okay.
balustrade.
That's
What happened to her then?
Well, she was then apparently taken into a bedroom, and we've got a still shot of the bedroom. We know that there was some violence in that bedroom and also sexual activity because of human semen that was found on an article in the bedroom, and also
nasty.
similar material found on an item of her clothing.
Miss Murrell was 79 years old.
Yes, this is a particularly disturbing feature of this assault.
Now, that doesn't
That
make
is
it
quite
sound
disturbing.
as though it was an ordinary motive of going for papers, yet there have been some peculiar things going on, or so it seems. For example, her document she was writing to oppose the Sizewell B power station, the final draft is said to have been missing.
Well, that isn't so. I have in front of me the final draft that she was working on, and we've been able to check that by examining her diary.
Okay,
And her diary
interesting.
for the evening before her death quite clearly shows that this is the paper that she was working on that particular evening.
Do you have any other clues as to who did it?
Interesting.
Well, we have a number of people who saw a man in the car, and we recovered certain items from the car. I've got a couple of them here. We have a Hamlet cigar wrapper, which was found in Miss Murrell's car. She was a non-smoker. She was anti-smoking. It's unlikely that it belonged to anyone connected with her. And I also have a snare peg, which was found in the glove compartment of the car, which
Looks like a
appears
tent
to
peg.
be...
I mean, a cigar's a
Well,
bit,
it could be
bit
a tent
much to
peg,
bring
it
you
could be
to
a
a
gamekeeper's
scene of a
or
crime.
poacher's snare.
Right. Now, as you say, she was seen in the car with a driver. What description
right.
do you have of the driver?
Well, he's a white male. He's probably in his middle to late 30s. He's average to thick set. He's got medium brown hair. It's
It
neatly
looks like
cut.
his
He's got
jacket's
fringe.
got a
He
bullet
was
hole in
wearing
the
the
back
anorak
of it.
that you see on the picture there, and we believe it's got a D ring in the centre of the back. We also
Oh,
have a
right,
further
that's what
description
it is.
of a man
Okay.
who was seen running away later from the scene of the attack.
Now, what do we know about this
But
man?
during the afternoon, a number of people saw a man running away from the scene where Miss Murrell had been left. He was wearing ordinary grey clothing. He's wearing training shoes. He didn't appear to be particularly fit. He was running towards Shrewsbury town centre. We lost him. The last sighting we have of him is a place called Heathgate's Island on the outskirts of Shrewsbury.
Now, it seems that he didn't come by car to the house? Otherwise, he presumably would have gone away in his own car.
That's a distinct possibility.
How did he get there, and how did he get away?
Well, we're particularly interested in anyone who may have picked up a hitchhiker that particular morning and dropped him off at Shrewsbury. It's a very busy through route on
Feels
the
like
main
he did
A5
not
road.
act
Her house
alone.
was close by. And we're also interested in how he got away, and he may well have been picked up by a vehicle as a hitchhiker and taken away from Shrewsbury.
Any idea why he took Miss Murrell with him? I mean, clearly he wasn't intending to head for those woods. The car went off the road by mistake.
I'm afraid that's a mystery. Until we find him, we won't know.
Well, let's hope you do find him, Mr. Cole. Thank you. If you think that you can help West Mercia Police in any way, here's the number. It's 01811 8055, 01811 8055. As I say, you can talk to detectives on the case or to a BBC researcher. You can call West Mercia Police direct if you want. They're in Shrewsbury on 52617. That's 0743 for Shrewsbury, 52617.
Okay, so let's talk about Hilda Murrell, because yeah, she is a very fascinating woman. She had a very interesting life. So I'll go through the notes that I had from before. So basically, she ran a award-winning florist until the age of 70. She had provided flowers for the royal family and for multiple prime ministers. And then when she retired, she became a environmentalist and is one of the founders of the Natural Soil Association. But as well as this, you did hear Nick there referencing the Sizewell B. There was a nuclear power station, and Hilda Murrell, she was a anti-nuclear campaigner, and particularly in regards to the safety of the radioactive waste, to which she wrote several papers on the subject. And she had been due to give a presentation on the nuclear power plant just days before her murder. And as well as that, there's also a connection to the Falklands War, because Hilda's nephew, Robert Green, he was outed in Parliament as having allegedly given the order to sink the Belgrano, which is basically what kick-started everything. And supposedly there were documents that were hidden in her house that someone may have been sent in to retrieve. But this seems unlikely because Green's position, it wouldn't have given him authority to have made that order. So there was a man who was convicted of Hilda's murder. So his name was Andrew George. He was convicted of a murder in 2005. And even though he does admit he was present, and DNA evidence that puts him on the scene, he denies that he actually murdered her. And supposedly there is DNA evidence that was under Hilda's fingernails that does show that there was at least one other person involved. So, I mean, if you do want to find out more about Hilda Murrell, there is a whole website. You can see it on screen now. Just hildamurrell.org. And if that's not enough for you, there are multiple books that have been written about her life and her murder. So, yeah, it is an absolutely fascinating case, and there's still to this day there are still question marks around it. So officially it's solved, but still, yeah, you know, still some loose ends to it. And like I say, I'm glad that Crimewatch actually did give her story the full treatment that it deserved, even if it took them a few months. Okay, let's go back.
Well, now the Crimewatch Incident Desk, where we invite the police to appeal to you directly. Here now are Constable
The old
Helen
incident
Phelps
desk.
and the newly promoted Superintendent, David Hatcher.
Well done,
This
David.
month,
Well
we'd
done
like
on
your
your
help to find a
promotion.
man
Well
who committed
deserved.
a sexual attack on a girl in Haver Hill in Suffolk. At about 4:30 on the afternoon of January the 10th this year, she was walking past Haver Hill Sports Centre on her way home from work. She noticed a man standing on this staircase. He followed her from the centre and minutes later attacked her by this footpath. For anyone who knows the area, it's near the junction of Manor Road and Freakley's Garage.
A photo fit of the attacker was prepared, but the victim
That
thought
looks
this
like
artist's
Neil from The Young
impression
Ones.
was much more like him. With her help and the Crimewatch computer,
That's a skinny
we've added
David
photo
Bowie.
fit eyes, mouth, and wavy hair to the artist's original. He was around 25, very thin, about 5'10", and was
No,
wearing a
that's any
tan leather
1980s
jacket.
rocker.
And the man left a distinctive trail, specific times and places where you may well have seen him. Within an hour of the attack, he used the victim's NatWest card in a cash dispenser in Saffron Walden Market Square. The time, 5:30. And remember, it was Thursday, January the 10th. Next day, Friday, January the 11th, the cash card was used again in Epping at about 20 to 4, and barely half an hour later in Harlow. On Saturday the 12th, whether he still had it or someone else, the same cash card was used first in Hoddesdon and again half an hour
So
later
a bit slow
at
getting
Ware.
that cancelled.
You might have seen the attacker in one of these towns, and there's one more clue. He has a Scottish accent.
This is what
Scots. All right.
330,000...
Yeah, before we go into those diamonds, so what have I been able to find out about that particular case there? Unfortunately, not a lot. The only thing I could find relating to this was from the local Haverhill Echo, basically just repeating what they've said there, that someone had stolen this woman's credit card and had been using it in multiple places. Now, you know, obviously all it says is the police have said, we've had a lot of leads, but nothing concrete, I'm afraid. So, yeah, not much I can really tell you about that one, I'm afraid. But I do always endeavour to try. All right, next one.
£1,000 worth of diamonds look like. That's the haul that was stolen from London's Hatton Garden last month.
So it's a
It
big
happened
diamond
at Thavy's
robbery.
Inn House in Holborn Circus on Monday the 4th of February. At 10:30 that morning, a security van delivered the diamonds from a cul-de-sac at the back of the building. As security guards took them inside, two men appeared armed with a sawn-off shotgun and a pistol. They grabbed the diamonds, which were in a surprisingly large bag, like this one.
I don't
Pushed
know
the
how.
guards
I
into
mean,
the
how
lift, pressed the up
how
button,
big are
and as the
diamond
guards headed
bags
for the
usually?
top floor, the thieves calmly walked out of the building into crowded Holborn Circus.
These photo fits of the two robbers were put together by the security guards, and they've improved them using the Crimewatch computer. The
I
first
do
man
like
was
those
about
hats.
35 to 38, 6 foot tall and slim. He wore a brown tweed jacket which appeared to cover another set of clothing. The second man was younger, about 23 to 30, 5 foot 8 inches tall and also slim. He wore additional clothing too. If you recognise either of these two, or
Well, I'm
think
glad
you
they
saw them
weren't
around
naked when they
Holborn
did it.
Circus that day, please contact us. And think carefully, because there's a reward of £33,000 for information leading to their arrest and conviction.
£33,000.
Now
That'd
for
be
a man who's
nice,
letting
especially with inflation. So on this one, what I've been able to find out is disco. So if you saw my last one, you would know that my 2025 agenda is to change the meaning of the word disco. Disco now means something is bad or annoying. So in quite a disco way, I couldn't find information on this, which is quite surprising actually, because you think a big diamond robbery, but I guess in Hatton Garden, where there are some much more famous robberies, I guess some diamonds being stolen. That's really just a dog bites man story. So yeah, no one's really interested in covering it. But so yeah, fortunately, nothing on this one.
Disguise slip. On Crimewatch last year, we showed this security video of an armed man raiding a building society in Leeds. The helmet the man wore was royal blue with a white peak. He's now struck 15 times, raiding building societies at the rate of about one a fortnight since the first one in August '84. But he's unwittingly helped us by revealing more of himself. On February the 8th, 1985, he raided the Leeds Permanent Building Society in Manchester, but he didn't wear his crash helmet this time, so now we can see the top half of his face. Here
I'm
he
not
is in
sure
both
how
his
they have
disguises, photographed
determined
by
that this
internal security
this
cameras.
must be the same
With our
guy.
video fit computer, we can move
So
one
it's
half
maybe
of
a
his face over and build
bit
up the
of
complete
similarity
face.
in those eyes, but
There he is. He's reckoned to be about 5'10" and has a Yorkshire accent. Apart from Leeds and Manchester, he's also raided building societies in Sheffield, Leicester, Nottingham and Birmingham.
Our next case turned out very badly for the robber concerned. It
okay.
happened here.
Okay, for David. Right. So on that particular story of the building society, yeah, when I looked into it previously, I wasn't able to find it. I've tried searching again, going through newspaper archives, but it's still very much in the disco. The flares are bouncing out everywhere. So yeah, that is a double strike for me on that one particular case. I've tried, but I just haven't been able to find anything to confirm what happened in that particular case. So let's go back. This one is an
Delta
Oldham, I
Accessories, a
recall.
mill near Oldham, on December the 20th. At 20 to 11 in the morning, a man burst into the wages office brandishing this sawn-off shotgun. It was fully loaded then. But the firm's security guard
Surely
managed
that's a
to
replica.
disarm the
Surely
man
that is
and hit
not
him over
the
the back of the
original
head
gun.
with it. As you can see, the gun's been taped together because it actually broke in the struggle. Although he was rather
Shouldn't be
dazed, the
handling
man managed to get
evidence.
away in a stolen blue Sierra and drove 1.5 miles to this cul-de-sac in a nearby suburb. He was seen running away from the car, holding his head. The man we're looking for is white, 30 to 35, with short mousy hair and a scar or blemish on his right cheek. But his injury was serious and is perhaps the most significant clue.
You'd think
Maybe
that'd
you
make it
know of
easier,
someone who had a
because they would have
hospital
to have gone
treatment
into
last Christmas
hospital
for head
or
wounds.
something like that.
Or did he ask you to help him?
And we're looking for another chap who's obviously reckoning.
So that one, the Oldham robber, and this is still totally disco. It's just getting really disco now that I can't find anything to about these cases. I do try my best. I go search through newspaper archives, but yeah, just nothing came up for this case. But so yeah, totally disco. Okay, what do we got next?
Becoming a film star. On October the 16th last year, the security camera filmed this robber at the Nationwide Building Society in East Ham, London. Here's the one walking towards the camera with a C&A plastic bag. Inside it was his gun and the money he'd forced
That's
the
Phil
cashier to give up.
Daniels.
He's 35 to 40, of medium build and with dark brown hair.
Park
If you
life.
recognise him, give us a call.
And finally, this man, Desmond Quigley, may be able to help Lancashire police in
Okay. Right, and next one. So Phil Daniels look like. Oh, okay. Looks like I missed it. Well, I couldn't find anything on Phil Daniels lookalike. So yeah, that one was another disco, I'm afraid. Well, I guess you got a spoiler for the next one.
investigation of the murder of John Ward, an antiques dealer from Lancaster who was found dead on December the 2nd last year. Desmond Quigley is 45 and 5'5". Among his many tattoos are the words love and hate across the fingers of each hand, and a thistle on the back of his left hand. He speaks with a strong Glaswegian accent and was living in East London. If you've seen him, or if you can help with any of our incident desk cases tonight, give us a ring.
The number to ring if
So, Mr. Quigley there. If you can just pretend you haven't already seen this. Yeah, they did catch up with him, and he was given a life sentence for the murder of John Ward. That was in 1986. That he was put in jailed for life. Okay, so there we go. We're back on track. We got one. Case solved. Let's go on.
you can help in any way, it's 01811 8055. 01811 8055.
Our next case takes us to Wastwater in Cumbria, where, if you remember, police frogmen found the so-called lady in the lake, a body whose discovery led last week to the imprisonment for manslaughter of the airline pilot Peter Hogg. Ironically, it was a quite different lady that had caused
That's not the
police
case
to
we're
search
looking at here.
Wastwater. They'd been hunting for this young woman, Veronique Marr. Veronique was 21. She came over here from her home just outside Paris to improve her English, and in the long, hot summer of 1983, she disappeared. Now, in a unique cross-channel appeal, Crimewatch UK is linking with a French television programme called Au Nom de l'Amour. Veronique's parents here make a direct appeal to the French public.
On est d'une famille très unie, donc elle avait un esprit de famille très poussé.
Yeah, I mean, I probably need someone to correct my French on that.
Ses études qu'elle faisait en 82, 83.
That looked like the show was called The Name in the Name of Love.
And in one of her vacations, Veronique came to England and the Lake District. We hope the reconstruction you're about to see will jog your memory.
But
remember,
hey,
it's July 1983.
Hey, international cooperation for the win.
Veronique Marr was a student of agriculture and loved the countryside. When she came to England, the Lake
I hope
District
so.
in Cumbria
I'd hope
was
you'd have
perhaps
the
an obvious place
countryside if
for her to
you're
visit.
interested in agriculture.
She arrived at the lakes by train on Sunday the 24th of July, 2 years ago.
I mean,
She
you'd
spent
struggle
a week
if
walking,
you didn't.
exploring the fells by day and staying at youth hostels overnight. It seems to have been a solitary holiday. Her English was poor, and she would have met few hikers who could speak French. By Saturday evening, the 30th of July, she'd reached Wasdell Hall Youth Hostel.
Yeah.
No one paid particular attention to her. She was another
Bruce, we're
youth
not good when
hosteler
it comes
on
to
holiday.
foreign languages. But you don't need them. All you need to do is just say the same thing in English, but in a louder voice, and everyone will understand you.
Next morning, Veronique spoke to a Danish woman she'd met at the hostel. Their conversation gives the only clue to the mystery of Veronique's disappearance.
Are you ready for your cooked breakfast? Yes, I am. And you for Veronique? Yes, me too. Thanks. Fais-tu de la marche encore aujourd'hui?
Ah oui,
Je veux
Wow.
monter jusqu'à Scarfell.
I suddenly want to go to
C'est le
Denmark.
mont le plus haut d'Angleterre, mais il ne fait que 1000 mètres.
After breakfast and her cleaning duty, Veronique checked out of Wasdale Hall Youth Hostel.
Veronique Ma.
Yes.
Amazing. There's only a small role, but
There you are, though.
Thank you.
he's so happy to do it.
Au revoir, monsieur.
Bye-bye.
At 9 o'clock that Sunday morning, Veronique walked out of the hostel
Ooh,
and
that's
vanished.
a good shot.
As far as the police know, she's never been
Going,
seen again. Wasdale Hall is on the shores of Lake Wastwater.
Full
It's one of the
production on
wildest
this one.
parts of England, set in the roughest of mountain country. Veronique could have taken one of 3 routes from the hostel. She might have gone down the valley towards Nether Wasdale and Stanton Bridge. But remember, she'd said she was going into the hills to climb Scorfell Pike.
Sorry,
One route to it is by
Scorfell
road to the
Pike.
head of the lake. Perhaps someone passed her.
It's Scaffell Pike.
Were you walking in the
Pike, isn't
valley
it?
that July Sunday morning? The other route is along the scree slopes that run down to the lake.
Wow, and
Perhaps Veronique
that's
lost
another
her
thing I'm
footing.
going to need to find out now.
The scree is very loose and treacherous, and sometimes
Scorfell
landslides cover the
Pike.
path. Veronique was carrying a heavy rucksack, and if she fell, it's feared she might have drowned. This is why police have spent hours in underwater searching.
Hmm.
Divers from the Lancashire underwater team have searched the lake on 4 separate occasions. Roped together for a necklace search, they've examined the perimeter of the lake bed in minute detail, but have found nothing belonging to Veronique.
Doesn't seem like she's there then.
The police also called on the Wasdale Mountain Rescue Team and volunteers from the local Outward Bound school. Between them, they've searched hundreds of acres of moorland. And police dogs have been on the mountainside too, combing the woodland and gullies.
Good boy.
RAF helicopter pilots on regular training missions have been alerted to look out for anything unusual on the fells. But there's still no sign of Veronique.
Well, I don't know what they would spot as being unusual.
Ironically, during the hunt for Veronique, the police found something else. The body of Mrs. Margaret Hogg. Her husband, an airline pilot, had dumped her from a small dinghy 7.5 years before.
So they did
Her
find
body had been
someone,
tossed
just
in a
not
parcel,
who they were looking
weighted with
for.
a curbstone, and dropped by chance in one of the shallower parts of the lake. Last week,
It's
her
one of those
husband was
weird
jailed
ironies.
for 4 years. Wastwater is the deepest lake in England. In places, it drops to over 300 feet, well beyond the range of normal diving. Two weeks ago, the police diving team returned to Wastwater to experiment with new equipment.
I think they're just showing off at this point.
Crimewatch helped the police by negotiating the use of an American mini-submarine, the first of its kind in Britain. And we were there to film the experiment.
Wow. Remember, this was all very cutting-edge stuff for 1985. May not look like much now.
The submarine's television camera gave the police an eye on the bottom of the lake.
Still say that's pretty cool.
But Wastwater is over 3 miles long and half a mile wide. A day's trial is not enough. A long and methodical search would be needed to cover the whole of the lake bed. Veronique's family are desperate for news.
Yeah, you
one
can't
way or the
half-ass
other.
it.
Their last contact with Veronique was this postcard, which she sent her grandparents a few days before she disappeared. It's the family's memento of the young woman who only came to Britain to improve her English. Well, in charge of the case is Chief Inspector Steve Reed of the Cumbrian Police. First of all, let's look at the route that Veronique took on her.
Okay, so yeah, that was quite interesting one. I think Crimewatch more just wanted to show off the new submarine tech that they had managed to get their hands on there. So all we know at this point is that this woman has gone missing, but wait, they found the body of another woman who had been murdered. So in a way, this case has already had a result.
A holiday there. She'd arrived at Windermere by train on the evening of Sunday, the 24th of July. She stayed at Ambleside Youth Hostel nearby. From there, she travelled north and climbed one of the Lake District's peaks, Helvellyn. That night, Monday, she stayed at a guest house on Lake Thirlmere. Where she went next isn't known, and that's one of your points of appeal, in fact, isn't it, on that Tuesday?
Yes, it is. Although it's not vital to the inquiry, we knew everywhere that Veronique had stayed that week.
She didn't go to Scorfell Pike.
We believe it was in the Keswick Borrowdale area. If anyone knew the exact whereabouts, obviously we'll be delighted to hear from them.
Right, and the next positive sighting then was on Wednesday when Veronique stayed at Longthwaite Hostel in Borrowdale. On the next 2 nights, she stayed in hostels at Lake Buttermere and Lake Ennerdale. From there, she made her way south and stayed at the hostel by Lake Wastwater on Saturday night, the 30th of July. But the question is, where was she going then? Remember, she left Wasdale Hall on Sunday morning, the 31st of July. She'd made a booking for Monday, the 1st of August at Coniston. But what about Sunday night? She might have been heading for a hostel between the two. There was one at Cockley Beck, but that one was closed. Chief Inspector Reed, where do you think Veronique was heading, in fact?
Well, as you say, that her intention was to stay at Coniston the night after and to walk Scarfell Pikes that day. It could well be that she would choose to go via Grasmere, which
Maybe
is
she was
a popular staying place
she
for
was
someone on a
planning
walking
on
holiday such as
camping out.
Veronique was having in the Lake District at that time.
What are your theories
You
about
never
exactly
know.
what happened to her?
Well, there are two options, really. One is that Veronique is alive, but one has to be realistic and think that that is a remote possibility, because when she went missing, we know that she's in possession of a certain number of travellers' checks, and we know to this date they have not been cashed. The other option, of course, is that she's dead, which could be as a result of a fatal accident on the Fells, or she could have been murdered, but there's certainly no evidence to substantiate
There's something
that
about the
whatsoever.
very
Would she have had any
matter-of-fact
reason,
way
do you know,
he's
to
saying
want
that.
to disappear without trace?
None whatsoever, no. All our inquiries led us to believe that she was a,
rubs me up
a
the wrong
homely
way.
girl.
Doesn't
Well,
look
we've seen
like
from the
he
family, obviously, that it is a close
doesn't
family.
seem
So
like he's
what do you think
too
somebody might
fussed.
be able to
Something
help you
about
with
it.
tonight? What sort of calls
I
are you
don't know.
hoping
Well,
for?
what we would ask for is that anyone that saw Veronique after that morning she left the youth hostel on the 31st of July to contact us if they saw her that day or any knowledge of her whereabouts thereafter to contact us. And also, as I mentioned earlier, that she could have suffered a fatal accident on the Fells. Then after this period of time, all that would remain would be the rucksack and possibly her clothing. And I have an identical type of rucksack that Veronique was wearing on the day in question. And again, one would ask that if anyone has seen such an abandoned rucksack on the Fells or abandoned elsewhere, to contact us.
Either last year or
keep an
indeed
eye
the
out.
coming year in the holiday period.
Certainly.
And those dates again, Tuesday the 26th of July and Sunday the 31st. If anybody saw her then, please let us know. The number to call if you think you can help is 01811 8055, 01811 8055, or you can call Cumbria Police direct at the incident room in Penrith. That is 0768 66886, Penrith 66886.
Okay, right. So before we go, so the case of the missing hiker. So she wasn't murdered. So that's a good thing. So it turns out it was, it was. She must have just had an accident and fell down one of the peaks, and she was found. Her body was found by a walker in well, not long after this episode went out. To be actually, it was in May 1985. They found her body. So I don't know. It's a positive insofar as that she wasn't murdered, but it's yeah, a shame that she did about what happened to her. Okay, so we'll move on. I think is the last case of the evening.
In fact, I can tell you we've already had a very high volume of calls tonight. Now, lastly this evening, we go to northeast Scotland.
It's good
We
to
want
hear
to
they're
take you
getting
back
lots of
6
calls.
months to a remote part of the country, and maybe you know somebody who's been there. On
Crimewatch
Monday,
used to
September the
regularly get about
24th,
9
last
million
year,
views.
the small village of Culbokie was shocked by a murder. The victim was Elizabeth Sutherland, a popular woman in the village and the mother of 2 children. Her home, Culbokie, is on the Black Isle, just north of Inverness.
Culbokie, that does not sound like a real place.
The Black Isle is a peninsula on the south side of the Cromarty Firth. The village of Culbokie, with a population of about 300, overlooks
See,
the
the more you
Firth.
say it, Nick, the
This
more
is where
ridiculous
Elizabeth
that place
Sutherland
name
lived.
sounds.
This is the family
Culbokie.
home, Dunrobin. It's on the outskirts of Culbokie, on the road towards the next village, Munlochy. Only 5
Down
feet
Robin and
tall, Elizabeth was also known
Calbrokey,
as
down the
Totsie.
road from down
Her
Lockey.
husband, Kinney, is a builder, and they have a son, Stephen. On the morning of Monday, September the 24th, Totsie dropped off her other child, Jane, at the village school.
See you later. Watch yourself.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Bye.
Her next stop was to pick up the morning paper.
Morning, Alice.
Morning, Tots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheerio just now.
Cheerio.
I wonder what the headline in the local paper was.
By 12 o'clock, after calling at her
Cat
parents'
goes
house,
missing.
Totsie was home and finishing off the housework. Then, about 12:30, she walked the 50 yards down to her parents' house to see her sister.
Well, it is a nice house.
Oh, it's you. What you doing back again?
Just back to see those barrels we bought.
Uh-huh.
See if they fit in the pots.
Really? Oh, mine are fine. Look at this.
Totsie was always active in village life. That day, she and her sister
Really, look, there's
Jane
all
were planning for the
plants.
local bulb show.
Don't find was mine.
We might win something there.
Oh, I think so. I think we've got a good chance at this year. Definitely. Uh-huh.
I was thinking of planting some in the garden. You know,
Really?
this afternoon,
Oh, well, that can make a nice display for the spring, wouldn't it?
At about the same time, a mile away, this lorry driver finished his break and set off up the Mount Eagle Road. The road goes by the Mount Eagle transmitter in the direction of Culbokie.
Okay.
A mile further on, he'd passed the Sutherland's house.
This might be one of the most rural
As the lorry drove along the
looking
single
rural
track
places
road, a red
in the
Cavalier
UK.
car tried to get past. The
This I
driver
do
remembered
understand
that
how
the
you could
registration
remember.
number ended with a T.
Because, you know, if you're driving around there, it's probably quite a rarity to see another vehicle on the road.
Totsie left her sister after chatting for no more than 10 minutes. Meanwhile, the lorry driver noticed the red Cavalier again. It was now parked, with the driver apparently gone, and less than a quarter of a mile from Dunrobin.
Well, you know, sometimes we all need to
The
answer the
lorry
call.
driver saw Totsie as he passed the house. The time, according to his tachograph, was 12:38. This was the last time she was definitely seen alive. Strangers and strange cars stand out in a small community like Culbokie, and several incidents were noticed that day.
See, that's basically what I said.
At
not,
1
they're
o'clock,
not used to
this
seeing
cyclist
other
was seen
cars
heading
out
into
around there.
Culbokie village. He had a hat and a fawn coat.
You know,
The police have never been able to trace him.
wasn't just me being a arrogant city boy.
At 1:35, a man was seen on the Dunkerston Road walking towards the village. He too has never been traced. And then between 2 and 4, another Cavalier, this time a white one, was seen by 2 different witnesses, parked here, only a few
white
yards
Cavalier
from the
and a
house.
red Cavalier. Probably the
At
same
about
car, I'm
4
thinking.
o'clock, Jane Sutherland came home from
Just,
school.
you know, just got the colour wrong.
Sometime in
You
the
know,
previous
memory
3.5
plays tricks.
hours, her mother had been stabbed to death in the house. Her 9-year-old daughter
that's not,
discovered the body.
Yeah, that's not fun, is it, for a kid to come home to?
Superintendent Andrew Lister, how's the family now?
The family are remarkably good.
So there we go. That's the case of Elizabeth Totsey Sutherland. So luckily, I can say I have been able to find out details on this one. It's a fairly interesting one, but I'll let the inspector speak first, and then I'll let you know. Yes, Jim, a white and a red Cavalier. They moved their war up into Scotland.
The little girl, she's a very bright girl, is a bit disturbed, upset, but overall they are remarkably good.
Have you any idea of the motive?
No clear idea. There is indications of it being theft, but then nothing was stolen. So I've got to honestly say there's no clear motive.
Well, let's take a look at the
stolen,
clues.
so
We have a map here.
that
Now,
does
let's
seem a
remind
bit
ourselves
strange.
of the sightings. Dunroben, there it is on the east side of Culbokie. The red car was seen here,
Still
about
don't believe
400
these are
500
real
yards
places.
from the home. The white car was seen here, very close to the house. Now, you need to find the drivers.
That is correct. We are the 2 vehicles being so close to the locus at the material time on that date. It's of utmost importance that we do identify the drivers and the owners of the cars so that we can eliminate them from the inquiry.
It's a red Cavalier and a white Cavalier, and it's Monday, September the 24th last year.
That's the correct year.
Now, there was
I
also
think it was just
the
one
cyclist
car. I think,
on the road from
people just got
Cromarty, wasn't it? Just
confused what
outside
colour it was.
Culbokie.
That is correct. The cyclist is in the same category as the cars. Despite very extensive inquiries, we have been unable to trace them.
And a pedestrian on the road to Culbokie on the Dunkerston Road, I think.
Again, that is exactly the same.
And do you have any other clues at all?
Yes, we have one person, a male person, who walked into the filling station at Conan Bridge.
A male person? You mean a man?
Station, but at 9:30 p.m. on the evening of the murder. He was carrying a gallon oil can, which he had filled with petrol, purchased 20 Regal cigarettes, and left.
He purchased 20 legal cigarettes.
And had an English accent.
He's English.
I didn't
he
think they'd
smokes
sell him
Regal
illegal ones.
cigarettes. Any other information? I mean,
Oh,
presumably
Regal
it's
cigarettes.
possible that it wasn't an outsider at all. Is there anything you want the residents of Culbokie to look out for or report?
Oh yes, very much so. I would ask the people in Culbokie to think hard about what happened prior to the murder, what happened on the day of the murder, what they saw, what they heard, and what they've seen and heard since.
I still think that
case. We need their
Culbokie
help
just
very much so,
sounds
the local people. And I would ask all viewers to think
such a
hard, if you can
ludicrous
give us
name.
anything at all that may help us in this case, and we certainly need it, then I'd ask them to ring in now and do so, and it would be treated in confidence.
All right, thank you very much, Superintendent Lister.
Do you love that
The number,
detective's voice?
as always, if you're going to ring here in London, 01 811 8055, 01 811 8055, or you can call Northern Constabulary direct. Here's the number, Dingwall 62444. That's 0349 for Dingwall, 62444.
So it's Culbokie in Dingwall.
And if you haven't had
Okay. All right. Right. Let me go back on here. so we can see what we can see. So the murder of Elizabeth Sutherland. So there was a man called George McPhee who was convicted for her murder. He was convicted in 1996, but that got overturned in 2003. No, sorry, no, he was convicted in 1986. Sorry. So yeah, so he was caught, he was tried, and he was convicted, but then on viewing his case, the courts ruled that there was insufficient evidence. But again, it's another one where George McPhee he did admit to being present, but he denied that he had actually carried out the murder. He said it was another man. So I get this case is officially unsolved. So yeah, maybe one day we will get the truth of that. Okay, so let's just go back and let Sue and Nick give us their outros.
A chance to write tonight's numbers down. If you have CFAX, they're all on page 186 for the rest of the week.
CFAX.
And if you don't have a phone or can't get through
Who
to us
doesn't love
tonight, drop us
CFAX?
a line. Here's the address:
Bring back
Crimewatch UK,
CFAX.
BBC TV Centre, London W12 8QT.
That would be on my election
The main
manifesto.
number is easy to remember. We're going to be here for the rest of the evening. Please do ring if you think you might be able to help in any way, however small.
In fact,
No
as
email
always,
at
we'll
that
be back
time.
to tell you what develops in just over an hour from now.
No
That's
Twitter.
Crimewatch UK Update here on BBC One at 11:30, which is directly after Question Time and the Cheltenham Festival.
Don't do the
If you can't stay
updates.
up till
No
then,
point.
I know I always say this, please don't have nightmares. Remember, we've been showing you very isolated crimes.
Violent crime really is much rarer than we might think, and as our experience shows, you can help make it even more rare. If you have any information on tonight's cases, please do ring.
We'll be waiting for your call. For the moment, good night.
And there we go. Yeah, it's quite good because they are Crimewatch at this stage. Crimewatch was at that point where it was able to demonstrate that it was having results. We saw a couple of cases on here earlier, such as with the thieves who stole all the hairspray, and the family that got attacked in their home. The criminals were caught because of Crimewatch. So at this point, Crimewatch, it was what 9 months old, but it was already, you could see it was having an effect. It was helping to solve crimes, and obviously that must be great for all the producers, all the people who are working on it, to be able to see that it was working. All right, so that wraps it up for this edition. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it. I'll try and get another edition out soon. I'm looking at maybe 2 weeks time at the moment, because I've got some personal commitments coming up. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it, and Remember, don't be disco. And don't have nightmares. See ya.